Welcome to the Enriching Book Club, where we take the greatest ideas ever written and bring them to life for the modern mind. Which timeless masterpiece are we unlocking today? Let's find out.
Welcome to This Explainer. Today we're going to unpack a literary masterpiece that, believe it or not, plays out exactly like a modern true crime documentary. Or maybe a high-stakes heist story. We are looking at Nikolai Gogol's 1842 Russian novel, Dead Souls. It's this brilliant, deeply layered work that somehow smashes together comedy, social criticism, philosophical reflection, and just pure grotesque absurdity into one unforgettable narrative. So let's just dive right into the wildly bizarre question at the heart of this whole thing. How do you get rich buying dead people? I know, it sounds totally insane, right? But as you'll see, this question is the anchor for a story that exposes a society completely trapped between illusion and reality. Section 1. The ultimate bureaucratic scam. We kick things off by meeting our main guy, Pavel Ivanovich Chichikov. He arrives in this sleepy, provincial Russian town seemingly out of nowhere. Now, he's great at making friends with local officials through polite flattery, but make no mistake, he is carrying a very dark, heavily guarded agenda. On the surface, he looks entirely ordinary. He's neither handsome nor ugly, neither rich nor poor, neither young nor old. He's literally a blank slate. Gogol built him this way on purpose. Chichikov represents the average, morally empty opportunist. You know, the classic bureaucratic climber who's just sniffing around for a loophole to exploit. And wow, what a loophole he finds. The scam is actually brilliantly simple. Back then, Russian serfs were counted in state censuses. They called them revisions. Between these censuses, serfs who had died were still officially registered as living, meaning their owners still had to pay taxes on them. So enter Chichikov. Step 1. Track down these deceased serfs on the state census. Step 2, buy them for basically pennies to relieve the landowner's tax burden. And Step 3, use these paper souls to artificially inflate his own wealth, using them as collateral to secure massive loans and social prestige. It's wild. The entire scheme is built completely on illusion. Moving on to Section 2, a gallery of grotesques. To build this bizarre paper empire, Chichikov literally goes door to door, pitching his strange business proposal to wealthy landowners. These unwitting marks give Gogol the perfect excuse to paint a devastating portrait of society. Each landowner is an exaggerated cartoon, a grotesque, representing a very real, universal moral disease. We've got Manilov, who's pleasant but ridiculously dreamy, pure intellectual laziness. Then there's Korobachka. She's intensely suspicious and embodies a deep fear of change. Nozdryov is a chaotic gambler and compulsive liar. He's the destruction of truth. And Sobakovich, he's heavy, animal-like, and represents pure greed and brute materialism. At first you laugh at them, but then you realize, wait, these flaws exist in ordinary people all around us. But you know, the most terrifying of the bunch has to be Plushkin, the tragic miser. This guy used to be prosperous, but he's become pathologically obsessed with hoarding. His estate is literally falling apart. Food is rotting in the corners, and his wealth just accumulates uselessly while life itself disappears around him. He goes way past being just a ridiculous caricature and turns into this deeply tragic symbol of spiritual death and human degeneration. Which brings us to Section 3, the House of Cards. Because, let's face it, no scam lasts forever, right? People in town start wondering why on earth a stranger is going around buying dead peasants. Soon, the town's imagination runs completely wild. The gossip machine goes into overdrive. They accuse Chichikov of being everything you can imagine: a criminal, a spy, a kidnapper, and even a secret government agent. The actual truth of the tax scam is almost too weird to guess, so as the gossip spreads, reality becomes totally irrelevant. Eventually, the sheer weight of all these insane rumors exposes his scheme, and Chichikov is forced to bolt out of town in absolute disgrace. It's right around the end of this part of the story that Gogol finally pulls back the curtain on Chichikov's past. Turns out, he was raised on literally one single principle: save money and advance yourself at any cost. That's it. So the absolutely crucial takeaway here is that Chichikov isn't some evil, dramatic supervillain. His entire existence is just an empty pursuit of status, wealth, and social approval. He is morally blank, and honestly, that void is exactly what makes him so incredibly dangerous. Section 4. Who is actually dead? Just when you think you're kicking back and enjoying a wild comedy about a con artist, Gogol executes this brilliant paradigm shift. He holds up a mirror right to the audience. The actual genius of the book is hiding right there in plain sight: the title, dead souls. It operates on two completely different, devastating levels. On the surface, sure, it's just a legal term for the deceased serfs listed on the censuses. But underneath, it is profoundly questioning the spiritual vitality of the living characters we've just spent all this time with.
And this illustrates the ultimate rug pull of the narrative. Literally, you have deceased serfs on government records. But symbolically, it points directly to the spiritually asleep living characters, the officials, the landowners, the merchants, and yes, Chichikov himself. Their bodies are walking around, but their moral and spiritual lives have completely withered away. We slowly realize the truly dead souls aren't the peasants on the tax forms. They're the greedy, empty people running the society.
Let's look at Section 5, Selling an Illusion. See, Gogol was taking a massive swing at a society where paperwork actually matters more than reality. And this 19th century critique of a bureaucracy where a dead person has economic value just because a form says they do feels intensely, almost uncomfortably relevant to us today. It turns out Chichikov's world perfectly predicted our modern hustle culture. Institutions become totally disconnected from human life. Numbers replace people. The system itself becomes more real than reality. We're living in a world that routinely rewards reputation over substance, image over character, and appearance over reality. Chichikov doesn't create wealth, he just creates the illusion of it.
When you really stop and think about it, Chichikov is basically an early master of personal branding. He wasn't just finding a clever tax loophole, he was pioneering the dark art of packaging and selling an absolute illusion to people who were just too blinded by their own materialism to see what was right in front of them.
Moving to Section 6, A Nation Searching for Meaning. If we take a step back from the scam for a second, a lot of literary critics will tell you that the true protagonist of the story we're exploring in this explainer isn't actually Chichikov at all. It's Russia itself. Gogol maps out the soul of a nation searching for its identity using these huge, powerful symbols. The endless roads represent life's journey. The decaying estates, they show the rotting inner condition of their owners. Bureaucratic records represent illusion, completely replacing reality. And money becomes this totally false measure of human worth. Gogol deeply loved his country, but he used these symbols to show a society in steep spiritual decline. Now here's a behind-the-scenes detail that's fascinating, but honestly pretty heartbreaking. Gogol envisioned this book as something massive, directly inspired by Dante's Divine Comedy. He intended to write Purgatory and Paradise sections to follow this first Hell section. He genuinely wanted to offer a path to redemption and moral rebirth for both Chichikov and Russia. But, tragically, he burnt them. He destroyed most of those later manuscripts shortly before he died, leaving the entire work forever suspended between despair and hope.
So as we wrap up this explainer, we're left with some pretty heavy central takeaways. First, society can be completely spiritually dead while looking incredibly successful on paper. Second, bureaucracy and materialism obscure actual human reality. Third, self-interest without a moral purpose leads to total emptiness. And finally, humans so often choose to live through illusions rather than facing the truth. These core themes are a stark reminder that the absurdity Gogol was pointing out over 180 years ago, yeah, it's actually our own absurdity today.
Which brings us to the big question. What actually happens when people become so obsessed with possessions, status, and appearances that they lose their souls? I want to leave you with that provocative thought to ponder. Keep it in mind the next time you catch yourself, or our society, valuing image over reality. Thanks so much for joining me for this explainer, and keep exploring the fascinating truths hidden behind the illusions.